The rain literally just absolutely started pounding it down, and all I've got is my waterproof jacket, but it doesn't cover my head. It like goes to there, it does my head in. Now it's stopped, but the person who's parked next to me is super close and it's going to be really difficult to get out. And they've come back to the car, but they've not gone. I might have to buy some hand cream from Aldi because my hands are annoying me. My skin's quite dry today, but my hands are like, they're not dry like, but they're annoying me. So I might get a hand cream in Aldi. I mean, I've never tried Aldi's hand creams. Do they do hand cream? And then I'll keep it in my car. Last week I didn't finish my vlog. I managed to get home for 3 o'clock last week. I know all the schools finished today. Some finished Tuesday. Unfortunately, the one round the corner finished where some of my harassers' children go to, and the children harass me. I don't know how many go there. I know some schools finished Wednesday, some finished yesterday, and some finished today. I mean, why can't they just go to school permanently? Because I never had this amount of time off when I went to school. Like, there's no way I had all this time off. They have it so easy at school. Like, I think I'm just going to go back to school because you've got a routine. You're there from like 9 till 3 or like whatever time. You know what you're doing when, because you've like got your like timetable. So you know what you're going to wear. You know where you're going to see it every day. Like, you finish school, you come home, you can do whatever the hell you want. You have loads of school holidays. Like, children think they have it hard going to school. No. The easiest time you're going to ever have in your life is going to school. Like, yeah, school might not be pleasant in, like, there's bullies and stuff, but there's bullies everywhere. Like, look at my street, it's full of them. They've bullied someone they've never spoken to ever. Some of them had never even seen me, yet they chose to bully me. I know some of them realised the mistakes they've made. There's been conversations had, and there are people like, why did I get involved in something that, you know, A, didn't concern me, and B, we weren't even told the truth about. And the rain started again. I should have got out instead of talking. I feel like it is getting brighter, so hopefully it'll stop. I'm going to put my jacket on. I don't know how much you can see because the thing that I'm resting on is covering part of my view. I don't think you can see much though. And I know I'm to one side, but I just couldn't get it to stand. And the palm in my hand doing my head in, I really feel like I've got some irritation there. I really want to put some hand cream on. You know what, I used to keep some in my car with like essentials in, and there's still some in my boot, and I noticed there was a few things in it. I might have a look if it stops raining before I go in the shop, because if there's some hand cream in it, I'm gonna use it. I need it in my car needs vacuuming. I couldn't do it yesterday because I was gonna do it, so I'll quickly tell you what I was doing yesterday. There's only limited days that I can do stuff outside the front of my house. And it's when some of my neighbours go to work, which isn't all the time. So Thursdays, weather permitting, I'm manic busy, non-stop, doing stuff in 3 hours that normally takes 6 hours, and I'm just go. But I never get to do everything, and it's like there's always loads of maintenance work in the garden that I need to do, and I was meant to do some yesterday, but things got thrown up in the air when one of my neighbours came back, and I thought they were going to be at home all day and they weren't, luckily. So I couldn't do the garden maintenance, and I couldn't start doing the other stuff until they'd definitely gone out. And then I was like, oh, they're going to come back, and I was like waiting to see if they came back. But I basically had to cut my hedge, which I started last week, and because I was very anxious about being outside and very like jumpy because of how I feel about certain people on the street, I accidentally cut through the wire. Now, I've never done it before. Like, I've cut that hedge loads of times. I've used the hedge trimmer, cutter loads and loads of times. Never once have I cut through the wire. So I cut through it, sparked, and it flipped out the electrics in the house, obviously. And I was like, and I'd cut it really close to, like, it was only about that far down. So my dad came home and he spent an hour and a half taking it all apart to rewire it. So he's like, if you do it again, I'm not gonna fix it. And I'm like, I'm not gonna do it again. I've used this countless times. I've never done this before. Like, went back out. I don't know why I'm laughing. I do not know why I'm laughing, because this is the effect people are having on me. Went back out, cutting the hedge, like, got most of the, well, actually the majority of the way across the front part. There's a lot more down the side. I'd done a bit of the inside first, originally, before I accidentally cut it. Cutting away, and what I do an initial cut, then I go back and do a secondary cut, and then I do a final cut later after I've done the initial cut all the way around, done the second cut. I then go on round and finish it off and make it look nicer. So I'm on the initial cut on the front, and postman, I just talked to the postman briefly, cutting away. A few minutes later, someone appeared from a house that was very instrumental in getting the harassment going, even though it wasn't the person who'd got it going. And I got really, really anxious and like really stressed out. I was like, God, are they going to say something to me? They kept looking at me, and then they walked like they were going to walk across to me, and I then weren't watching what I was doing and cut the wire in exactly the same place. Obviously it was a different part of the wire because it'd been rewired, but literally the same distance down, I cut it again. Didn't spark, didn't flip out the electrics, because I went straight in the house, went to put the electrics on and they were still on, and I'm like, why have they not flipped out? So I rang my dad, and he said, and he actually said what I'd done before I'd actually told him. He's like, I knew what you were going to tell me. And I was like, I don't know, like, how the hell I've managed to do it, because I've cut the hedge loads of times. I've used a hedge trimmer loads of times, never once cut the wire. I'm always super careful, like, and I'm like, it's just because I'm so anxious about being outside. And he's like, you know, what they're doing is wrong. What they've done for 2.5 years is wrong. Like, you know, he's had enough for certain people. I think we all know he's had the most of. Like, he's sick of the control, because there's control going on. It's not only me that stopped from doing things, like, it's him as well. So I then got on with another thing that I started to do, and it's so stressful living at my house, because if you go out the front door and look to the left, it has like little stones, but because someone kept running through my garden continuously, that side, I mean, that has almost stopped. They were constantly moving the stones and exposing the lining, which was a cheap lining. We didn't do it. Whoever done it had used black bin bags, basically. And because they'd moved the stones from running across it so many times, they then disturbed the bags, and then like, it was just, the bags were like messed up and the stones were messed up, and it was really scruffy. And comments were being made by the parents of the person, the child that had caused the damage, about how messy it was. And we were like, you know, and it did look a right state. So weeks and weeks ago, I thought, well, how difficult is it to move these stones? And whilst said neighbours were out, I started to move them, and it wasn't easy. Like, I was just seeing if I could move them, and I was piling them at one end, and it was really hard work. So I didn't do any for weeks. And then, so after I'd cut the wire off the plug again, and we knew we was gonna, well, I knew we was getting a cordless one then, I spent like 2-3 hours moving stones. I was knackered, like, honest to God. By the time I got to the dog walk, I'd done over 9,500 steps. It wasn't from that alone, but like, I'd say 6,000 of that was from scooping the stones up, moving them, scooping them up, moving them, pulling loads of bin bags up. And it's 90% sorted. Now we want to put grass down, and which is going to be an issue because they won't stay out my garden. Other children, they keep kicking and throwing the ball over the 6'5" hedge. So we want to put some turf down, but you can't go on it for 3 to 4 weeks. So that was what I was doing. I was sweating, I was knackered, like I nearly fell over at one point. At one point I had to go in and get something to eat and drink. If you get any closer to my car, you're going to be in it. This guy's just reverse parked. And he almost hit my boot. So yeah, I was doing that last week. And then I was going to do some painting because I started painting the outer fence weeks ago. Like I said, there's only one day a week where I can paint it without feeling too unsafe. And I ran out of time because I carried on past the normal time I go on the dog walk, and I came back late on the Thursday. I could come back later on the Thursday, which I've not done. So yesterday, did the hedge on the outer part. I've done a little bit of the inner part near the house, near the front of the house, but I've not done the rest. It needs doing. Oh, don't park next to me. You're gonna, aren't you? They're actually parked in 3 spaces. So I did an initial cut all the way around. It's a good job they took up 2 spaces, because literally she just got out the passenger and whacked the door as wide open as possible, and if she would have been in the proper space lines, the car would have just knocked my mirror off. So did the initial cut all the way around. It's always longer on the side because the sun hits there more. One of the neighbours that scares me the most came home whilst I was over halfway round, and I'm thinking, do I go in? Like, what do I do? Full on stared at me, like, and I'm just like pretending like I didn't know, because they want you to know, don't they? They want you to like react, like run off, because normally I would run off. And I stayed out there because I knew I was on camera, and that's the only reason. But I was very anxious, and I was like, do you know when you're just like on edge and you're like ready to move just in case? I was like that. Luckily my thing's cordless, so I could just walk off with it if I needed to. And they only stayed about 10 minutes and they went. When they went, I was out there brushing up leaves and putting them into black bags, because there were just loads of them, and the wind had started to pick up, and I thought, I don't want these all the way down the street, because that's what I'll get next. She got leaves all over the street. It's budding, like, I can't help the wind, you know what I mean? And it took me longer to pick all the leaves up, or as many as I could get up, because a few had blown on the street, than it took me to cut. I did part of a secondary cut on the front part. The front part is like 80% done. Like, I do initial cut, and sometimes whilst I'm doing the initial cut, I will go back over it, because you do the initial cut, you cut off a bulk of it, and then you stand as close to it as you can looking down it to get the right shape. But I still need to do more, and I need to do the other side, which I hate doing, because there's people on the street whose cats do the business in my garden. We've done stuff to try and stop it, but you can't see them, and then you stand in them, and cat poo is worse than dog poo. I'd rather stand in 100 dog poos than 1 cat poo. And it's always wet in that garden because it just never fully dries out. So I'm dreading having to cut the hedge, but I have to cut it on the inside, A, because it needs doing, and B, because it's sticking up, and it, like, you can tell it needs cutting. It looks like incomplete, but I didn't have time to finish it, and I didn't really fancy going and doing that day. So then I started to do some fence painting. Now, I'd done probably 2/3, if not more, of the first coat. So I finished the first coat, and there's a tree at the back of my house right against the fence panel, and I'm there trying to climb in where this tree is, and there's 4 panels that I can't paint because the tree's in the way. And I'd literally squeezed myself in there. It literally looked like I was trying to hide behind the tree, and then I struggled to get out. And then there's this plant growing up the wall against the thing that needs trimming, because there's a bottom part of the fence on maybe 5 or 6 slats that I can't paint because it's got this thing growing up, so I need to trim that. But yeah, I finished all the first coat, and I started the second coat on I think I did 4 or 5 panels just to see how it's drying, to see if a second coat's enough. I still need to do a second coat on the side gate, but then I thought, right, I've got 10 minutes, I'll vac my car quickly because definitely needs doing. Walk round the corner and one of the people that scares me the most had returned home, so I then was immediately on edge, couldn't do my car because I just wouldn't have felt safe. Got changed, had a drink because I'd not had enough to drink, went out with the dog, went out like over an hour, like an hour and a half later than I typically would at the latest, but because it was a Thursday I did have a bit more leeway. But I will, like, now it's the summer holidays, my timings are going to be all over the place. It's going to be whenever I could get off the street comfortably, depending on who's around. And it was like that during the last holidays. My timings were all over the place and I was going out later and coming back later, but I was doing longer walks because I was going to struggle to come home regardless. Oh, what's in the pocket? There's either something in the pocket. This is my dog walking jacket, by the way, but it becomes my going to the shop jacket. I need to get a jacket just for like every day. But the reason I wear a baseball cap, even when it's oh, just a poo bag. Tell me you've got a dog without telling me you've got a dog. Do you know what? I've been here ages now, at least half an hour. At least I filmed today. I'm obviously not going to get out early today, but Fridays it doesn't typically matter as long as I can get off the street by 20 to 3 at the latest. I mean, I do like it to be earlier, but that's the latest. I have gone later. Hold on. I think 5 to 3 is like the latest I want to, but I get in some school traffic at that point. If I go like at 1:45, 20 to 1:45, it's not as bad. But ideally, I want to go by 2. I mean, it's probably doubtful at this stage. It's 10 to bloody 12. I was going to go to a totally different shop today. I got out later than planned. I've been sat here ages. I just couldn't be bothered. This shop's really busy, so I'm guessing people are just bringing the children to the shop for half term. Some holidays, not half term. I've got pretty nearly 7 weeks of harassment to put up with now, unfortunately. The rowdy bags last week. Oh, I nearly took 3 in. Do you know what? Sometimes I need 3, sometimes I need 2. The guy who parked behind me. Anyway, I've got this key ring on. You got this. Got it in a treat box, not the July box. The oh, what is that? The June box. And I took maybe 2 key rings off and I put it on. It's full of bloody makeup.